Today on Sunyshore Station, we discuss our favorite Avatar: The Last Airbender episodes. Let's get into it. It's always sunny at Sunyshore Station. How's it going, everyone? Fus Force back again with another episode of Sunyshore Station. And this time, I am joined yet again by the master of four elements, the Avatar himself, Tylerthegrey.
It is I, Tylerthegrey, master of all four elements. Slothfulness, avarice, food.
Okay, fair.
I don't have the fourth one. What's the fourth one? Help.
Guitar.
There you go.
Yeah.
Oh, Lord.
Oh, me. We're off to a great start today. I was going to say only he can save us from the ruthless podcasters out there on the internet. But, you know, before he disappears for another 100 years, we should go ahead and get started, right? You ready for today's episode today?
I am, are you?
I just said today's episode today. I don't know if I'm ready. I can't talk very well. Okay, so today we're talking about Avatar: The Last Airbender. Last time we talked about Avatar: The Last Airbender, the live action. We're going to talk about the OG this time. And Tyler and I have made a list of 5 episodes each. We started with our first 3 picks, a favorite episode from each season. And then our 4th pick is just a favorite overall episode that wasn't the finale. And then both of our number 5 picks are the finale, spoiler alert. And we're going to kind of talk about why we like what we like. So let's get straight into it. You ready?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, you want to go first?
Sure.
You are the Avatar. Go for it.
So, this first one, I like for many reasons, but it also was a Zuko heavy episode. That's going to be something recurring on my list because I did really like him as a character. It's called the Blue Spirit. Boy, I thought this was so cool when I was a kid. I loved the idea of having the 2 swords that kind of split off, and I just loved the whole experience of the whole episode. And it was just really strange to see him trying to rescue Aang, obviously. But man, do you have anything to say about that episode?
I think the weirdest thing that stuck with me for these years is that the remedy was to suck on frogs for Katara and Sokka because they were sick. And then he said, please go back to being frozen. Stop. And the frogs are just like going under the door, and the Fire Nation soldier is so confused. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
I think that, I know it's silly, but that's like something that has stuck with me. I watched this when I was a child, you have to remember, but I would remember laughing hysterically at that.
I felt sad that they kept escaping, but then man, those archers, I can't remember the name of the archers.
The Yu Yan archers.
Golly, those people, I was like, look, they got a little bow. They're going to shoot little arrows. And it's like, oh, no.
I'm just saying,
they're actually...
Zuko should have, like, upgraded to using a net a long time ago, because it's super effective against an airbender. I'm just saying.
Yeah, why don't we see more nets? I mean...
I think there's only, like, 2. The pirate episode and then that episode. They don't use nets very often. Because remember, Sokka's, like, in the pirate episode, he's like, the waterbending scroll. He's like, am I not good enough to be captured? And then he gets captured. I don't know. I think a net is like the perfect like counter to like airbending, you know? So Zuko should have invested in some high quality rope.
Yeah. I just, this whole episode was pretty good. And for that second, you know, when Zuko gets knocked out and Aang escapes, and they actually have a second there, you know, and Aang realizes who it is. Like that's pretty cool. There's
a line in there that really like hits home with me is that, do you think if we would have known each other way back when, could we have been friends? And I'm like, dang, man.
That's exactly. And then it was like,
yeah. You know, quick little fun fact for you. After Zuko learns the meaning of firebending, he stops grunting when he's throwing his fire, if you think about it.
Huh.
He learns like the true meaning doesn't come from the muscle, comes from the breath and everything. And he stops being angry as he's throwing his fire. So he stops grunting. And if you listen to Azula in the final fight, she's actually grunting because she's using the anger.
A little unhinged on that last one.
Attention to detail, dude. You know, there's in this episode that you're bringing up sets up their friendship later on. It's a great episode and it's a fan favorite for sure.
Yeah.
Fully agree with you that it is a top tier episode. I want to go ahead and transfer to my top tier episode. I think this is like on the same level as the Blue Spirit for me, the Storm, because like you said, Zuko heavy episode. I find it infinitely more entertaining to get backstory from the person that's supposed to be an antagonist. And when I saw this episode for the first time, and it didn't just focus on Aang and his failure, I knew that there was something different about Zuko.
Yeah.
I knew that they were setting him up for a redemption, because even as a kid, I was like, okay, that's a lot of backstory, and you're sympathizing with this guy. You know, there's a lot of backstory that's given there, and people are not inherently evil; they're created. You know.
Yeah.
And I think that his anger was created by his father. You know, and the cruelty that he witnessed and had to bear. So, I mean, it was just a great episode. I liked hearing more about Aang and his failure and his cowardice to run away. It's such a pivotal plot line, but getting backstory and clarification as to why he was thinking what he was thinking, and how they robbed him of his childhood and ran, and the parallels. He has to regain his honor just as much as Zuko needs to regain his honor, but not in the way he's thinking that he needs to regain his honor. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
And then also one other thing that I wanted to add, then I'll throw it to you for this episode, is Iroh lightning redirecting for the first time. It was pretty awesome.
Definitely. I feel like also it kind of paints a picture a little bit also with Zuko's relationship with his uncle. Because also we can kind of see his uncle's for sure that kind of father figure that, if you had not ever seen this and you watched their interactions, you would almost think that like he was his father.
Yeah.
In so many ways. But yeah, that episode humanized Zuko and like showing what he went through, and you can see like the birth of the angry kid, the fire angry kid, There's
this really cool scene where it's the picture of Zuko, and then it transitions to his face with the scar, and that's when the lightning hits and he's going after trying to help the helmsman and everything. It's such a cool transition, like the falling of where he visualizes himself up here, but then he falls down, in his own mind, but actually he needed to be set on that path to be the righteous hero,
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just a beautiful story, and it's a mastercrafted story. It's ridiculously good, and I think that this is the first episode, like you said, humanizes Zuko, and that's why I like it. There's not really much more to it other than that. It's very Zuko heavy, and I think that that's important. But let's go to year number 2. We're going to move on to season 2 now.
Yeah. So I guess this should have been like titled like Avatar: The Last Airbender, but Zuko.
Right. Zuko, the last firebender.
Yeah. So this one is called Zuko Alone, and I believe it's when he splits off from his uncle for a bit.
Yeah.
And we can really see him traveling this the Earth Kingdom, correct?
Yep.
Going through all these different towns and stuff, but the one that he comes across has that kid in it, and it feels like he starts to develop like a bond with that kid.
Yeah.
Long story short, like in true Avatar fashion, something happens, bad people come to the town, and Zuko tries to fix it, but ultimately I believe he ends up using fire.
Can I back up to what you just said for a second?
Yeah.
Bad people come into the town. This is pivotal, because it shows that Fire Nation isn't all inherently evil, and Earth Kingdom and other nations are not all inherently good.
Yeah.
Right? There's bad and good on both sides. Just like we have Zuko, who's, learning his identity, relearning his identity, becoming who he is, and he's facing off against corruption that's inside of the Earth Kingdom, who are quote unquote the good guys in this war. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's really important. It's a pivotal moment. This is all about identity, and this is all about finding yourself, and there's flashbacks and talking about his mother, and it's such a self-discovery episode.
Yeah.
And it gives us like a point of clarification that not all Earth Kingdom is good, not all Fire Nation is bad,
Exactly. And it's just like, I mean, I have several episodes like this that kind of flip your understood norms of this series on its head a little bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's interesting because it is Zuko traveling through the Earth Kingdom, but also he's just as afraid as of the, I guess, the Earth Kingdom folks as they are of firebenders, and even some of the people in the Earth Kingdom afraid of other Earth Kingdom folks, and it's like, wow,
And
like it's
he's
really
afraid of being found out by the Fire Nation. So I mean,
yeah,
it's there's a
things
lot
are
of
rough all
parallels.
over.
Yeah, a world torn by war is very, very, very fragile and damaged. So I think the creators were brilliant in their choices of depicting these kind of themes. You know what I mean?
They do a good job of fleshing everything out too, and a lot of the stuff I didn't quite get when I was younger, but now like older, it's like wow, there's a lot of depth to the world building that they did there.
That's why we're still
in
talking
general.
about it right now.
Yeah, I mean honestly, but speaking of the world building,
Oh my god. So still in season 2, we have the Tales of Ba Sing Se. Now, they had to have, because Nickelodeon wanted them to, they had to have an anthology or a clip show. They had to have their Ember Island players in season 3, like a recap episode. Then this episode, they had to have downtime. We have great moments like Katara and Toph, and we learning about Toph being fragile, even though she's this tough person. We learn about her insecurity. We learn about Katara's kindness and her caring attitude. We learn about Sokka and his ability to rizz up the ladies, as the kids would say. Remember, that's one too many syllables, bub. He gets thrown poetry. We learn about a little bit about Momo's connection to Appa, and how he is longing for him just as much as Aang is.
like a dog, it's sad, waiting for its master or something.
Right. And then we humanize Zuko a little bit more. He has this beautiful moment with this young woman in the Earth Kingdom where he chooses to put himself at risk by lighting all the candles, with his firebender.
Yeah, that was cool.
And by the way, impressive, because he's throwing fire so accurately. If he missed, that would have been a huge problem, right?
It was super reckless, but I mean, we expect stuff from Zuko at this point like that.
And then arguably the best part is, I mean, I know I skipped over Aang's, but his was just zookeeping.
Yeah.
Iroh's, because it starts out so happy. He's just, you get to hear the new voice actor too. Because
Big sad.
when Mako died and we had Greg Baldwin come in as Iroh's voice, we hear it sometimes it's best to like live or catch up, or what when the ball hits the window, like live up to the thing, or he said something, I can't remember the quote, and he says, but not today, and he runs away.
But not today.
Not today. Yeah, and you can hear the new voice actor for the first time, which is a good touch. And then it all culminates to this. I butchered that line, I know, I'm sorry guys. I didn't like watch it beforehand. When he gets onto that hill and sings the same song he sang for the little boy, he sings Leaves from the Vine.
Yeah.
He says, happy birthday, my son, if only I could save you. That, yeah. I'm getting chills thinking about it right now, Grown men cried when they watched. I watched these people that are I watched these people on YouTube reacting to it they were haters of Avatar, and they're great. I love them. They were fully about to cry. These dudes who were like, "Oh, that's rough, man." Or as Zuko would say, "That's rough, buddy."
Yeah.
What a tribute to a legend, a voice acting legend. And I mean, they threw that in there at that tribute to Mako, and it was such a good like tribute to an iconic voice. Uncle Iroh was speaking the true the whole time, and everyone kind of like everyone kind of identifies with like everyone is who likes Avatar has universally said they would sit down and have tea with Uncle Iroh. That, like, you know what I mean? Like, yeah. It would be like life changing. Everything he says is just a fount of wisdom, and like everyone loved that. So without Mako bringing that voice to life, we would not have had such a loving thing. And then Greg did such a good job taking the mantle because he had studied under him for a while, and man, it was so good. I love the Tales of Ba Sing Se. What do you think?
No, I think I agree with you completely on that, and it is kind of a nice, like, poetic kind of send off for that voice actor, because like he's talking about his son. I mean, the character's talking about his son there, but it also is like could be a vehicle for people watching to grieve along with like everyone that was involved in general. It like created sadness for like a couple of reasons, it's like meaningful. But yeah, like he was just we all think Uncle is pretty much the best in the series, and he in so many ways. I mean, like I still always remember that part where he's like, can you stop fighting for 2 seconds? Can you not tell that your ship has sailed down the river? And he's
it's no time for one of your proverbs, Uncle. It's no proverb.
And he's like, maybe it should be a proverb. Like.
I also wanted to throw a shout out to the podcast Braving the Elements, Nickelodeon's podcast about Avatar. You definitely should listen to this if you guys are listening to this podcast and you enjoy Avatar. Go listen to them; they're incredible. They actually got Greg on the show. Janet Varney, the voice of Korra, and Dante Bosco, the voice of Zuko, talked with Greg about this, and they got the Michael DiMartino and Brian Konietzko on there to talk about like Mako's influence in the world and in the world of voice acting and the world of acting in general. And it was really emotional because they were talking about how like hearing him sing it in the booth, because he was so shy about his singing voice, and they said it was genuinely a beautiful scene. And then when they played it back after he passed, they said like literally they started crying on the podcast. It was beautiful. They were talking about how it was like the most beautiful thing hearing his voice again like that, because it was just something that they had, and they were like, can you sing this please, sing the song. It's
like some form of emotional necromancy. Bringing him back from the dead, like,
Yeah, it was awesome. I mean, like it was so touching for them, and like for those people that knew him personally, it was irreplaceable. So go listen to that podcast episode talking about Tales of Ba Sing Se. Go and listen to the tribute. Even if you don't listen to their whole podcast, listen to the tribute. It's so good. It's so good. Anyway, let's get away from season 2, move on to season 3 with Tyler's first pick.
This one's a little bit more on the cheery side.
Depends on what part of the episode.
Well, yeah. And it's the only beach episode in pretty much any animation that I've ever watched that was not actually filler. With the anime, you gotta have the beach episode. We're going to the beach. Ah, wow. And we're gonna get to see everyone's in bathing suits, and wow, look at that, we're cooking on the beach. Wow. That kind of thing.
Anime wow sound effect.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. But this episode's titled The Beach, simply. And I love this episode so much because there are parts, even Azula, like, she cracked me up in the episode. It's like, I did not expect these parts, you know what I mean?
It's a sharp outfit, Chan. If you're not careful, you'll puncture the hull of an Empire-class ship, leaving thousands to drown at sea, because it's so sharp.
Negative freaking Riz. Freaking negative Riz. It's almost a threat,
Or when she kisses him and then goes, we'll be the most powerful fly in the fire. He says, I gotta go.
Man.
It was cool to see the dynamic between our villains,
Yeah. And you got to see a little bit of Mei and Zuko, and that kind of moment where they're all talking around the fireside, as they do, everybody talking around the fireside. Let's tell everybody our deepest, darkest feelings.
I love that comment Tylee says about it's bad for your skin. And Zuko's like, my father decided to burn me. Wow.
You could have chosen a different thing you could say there, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but Zuko was also being that guy that's like, this time I was abused, and bringing it up over and over and over again.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, I get it. It was traumatic, but I mean...
Bringing it down. It's like you go to, like, you have drinks with some friends, and then one person just gets in their feels, and it's like, you say something funny, it's like, my dad said that, this above me, and he didn't. It's like, whoa, bro. Okay, wait, bringing the mood down.
That, or you're like talking about how, oh my gosh, my dog did this silly trick, and that one friend who's drinking too much going like, my dog died last week.
I got
wow,
rocks.
thanks, man. Appreciate you.
Like the Charlie Brown kind of thing. It's like, I got a whole candy bar. I got rocks.
I agree with you, though. The beach is really cool. One of my favorite scenes is really funny. It says, "Time to hit the beach," and the old ladies pull off their towels and make up for Zuko's eyes. Oh,
I forgot about that.
That mental image will be in your mind now, listeners and Tyler. Oh my god.
It's a walrus flossing.
I will I will remind you, this is a children's cartoon.
I liked that they did age up a little bit with continuing with the series, but yeah, that was a really good episode.
It was
just them devising a plan to crash the party and
then they literally crashed the party at the end, and they're like, you can't get mad at us, my dad's the fire lord.
It's like, my daddy will sue you if you beat me up.
What a good episode.
Indeed.
Speaking of good episodes, I'll move on over to the Firebending Masters. I think this is really cool. So backing up a little bit at the Western Air Temple episode, whenever Zuko's like, "Hello, Zuko here." There's a fan theory that I'm pretty sure it's been confirmed, but Zuko didn't know their names,
dude,
because he says, "I'm gonna teach the Avatar firebending." He says Zuko here. He doesn't say hi to this person or hi to that person, and then he looks genuinely stumped when Katara comes into the room and says, "You give me one reason you think you might hurt Aang and I'll end your destiny." He looks confused because he's like, "Which one's Aang again?"
He has to know Aang at this point,
Well, he's never said his name. He's never said his name before. That's really true. The first time he says Aang,
it's the Avatar.
Yeah, the first time he says Aang is after joining their group. It's after.
I wonder if that was a way for him to dehumanize the Avatar as an object of
is to not learn his name. Yep.
Yeah. Or like that idea where it's like, don't call him by his name because he's the Avatar. He's my prey. He's not Aang. But yeah, I could see that being
funny.
That'd be so funny. Which one's Aang?
Yeah, that's why he looks confused, because he's like, which one should I not threaten? But Firebending Masters is really good because we see Zuko and Aang travel to this ancient civilization and booby traps, and they boobied right into it, is what Aang said. And they meet the Sun Warriors. And I think the coolest part is when they're talking about the Masters, Ran and Shaw, and they have the first fire given to man by the dragons. And they go and present their fire, and you hear that chanting. It's awesome. It's awesome. You know what I'm talking about?
Noises.
Yeah, it's awesome. And we find out the Masters are the last two dragons, and Iroh lied and didn't actually kill the last dragons.
That was so cool.
And they do the dance of the dragon. Oh, it's so cool. And then the burst of color, and we see Aang firebend and accept his role as a firebender. It's incredible. I love it. There's so much about this that's awesome. I think it's good because there's that stigma the whole time that it's bad, firebending bad,
pure destruction. Yeah,
but it's life, and it's beautiful colors, and it's I don't know, like Aang coming to terms with that is really cool.
It is kind of funny to me because it's like, oh, firebending masters, nah, Zuko, nah,
we're the fire prince and the Avatar, I think we could take him. And then Aang's like, you still think we could take him? He said, I never said that. I love how they have some serious and like silly undertones. Like, Zuko, I want you to dance with me.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I love that a lot. But anyway, those were our picks for each of the seasons. Let's move on to our just overall something that we absolutely love, and let's start with Tyler. What episode did you choose with your overall? Like, you loved this episode. Doesn't really matter what season it's from.
I think it was around the second episode of season 3 called "The Headband," and it was kind of a toss up in my head between the first episode and this episode. But I really enjoyed this episode. You got to see, I don't know, Aang kind of talking to kids, and like he has that party in the cave, and you can see like the Fire Nation is not exactly, they're not in the know on what's going on really outside the Fire Nation. They're kind of being lied to a little bit about like actual events, and it makes more sense. It's like propaganda for their nation, you know?
Yeah.
It's like, oh well, you know, we are just the Fire Nation, and like all the rest of the other nations are just jealous of us or something in that way, or you know, I don't think they said that, but it's that vibe. You know what I mean? It's like, well, we're the best, and that's why, you know,
they even threw this like this fake history in there, like, you know, what year did Sozin beat the Fire Nation, the Air Nation army? And then Aang's like, the air, is that a trick question? The Airbenders didn't have a formal form of military.
Yeah.
Sozin defeated them by ambush, and she's like, I don't know how you know more than our things unless you were there 100 years ago. And he sits back down. I'll just put my best guess. That's such a good episode though. Like you get a peek inside of the indoctrination and the propaganda, like you said, and you know, the oppressive culture that it is. Like, you know, dancing isn't even allowed.
I remember the snacks from that episode, though. I can't remember the name. So, like, fire poppers or something, like a spicy snack. Fire flakes.
Fire flakes. I think those. Flaming fire flakes were. Yeah. It says they're gonna be hot. You know.
Yeah, but that's you see kind of Aang actually fitting in for once, also a little bit with like the dance party and everything else, because you know. When he was at the Air Temple, you know, 100 years ago, he didn't fit in really. Like he didn't really play with a lot of the other kids because, you know, he was so good at airbending that it was completely unfair if they were to do anything involving airbending a lot of the times. And here we can see him being like, oh, this is what it's like to, you know, be included in stuff, or like even try to do something, even just for a minute there, you know.
Having a childhood.
Yeah. And the whole point of the headband was kind of, he hated it. He hated putting that thing on. He hated that he couldn't show off his arrow. And he was like, it's part of me. And it's like, well, you know, that's the point, though. It is part of you. And everyone thinks you're dead right now. And he's like coming to grips with the fact that everyone in the entire world thinks he failed. All over again, but this time it's like it hits harder because this is what he didn't want. And yeah, just the him coming to grips with his failure on that part, and wearing the headband, it's like a literal headband of shame almost for him.
Yeah,
in many aspects. But that episode, I feel like I talked about this episode for a while now, but
it's a good episode.
It really hit me because you like we said, you know, in Zuko Alone, the beach, you know, Blue Spirit, we see that like it's not all black and white. It's really a lot of different shades of darkness and brightness and everything in between.
It's a good episode, and he come into grips with the job that he needs to do, and he can make a difference even if he's not necessarily making an avatar difference. He's making his personality making a difference, if that makes sense.
Yeah, exactly.
I want to talk about my episode next. We're going to go all the way back to season 1. And this is the episode that I knew that this wasn't just going to be a kid's show. Season 1, episode 3, The Southern Air Temple.
Oh boy.
It's all fun and games until you're watching a TV show and you're, you know, middle school aged, and you're, you know, just watching, and then he stumbles across the skeleton of his father figure. It really hit home. I'm like, this is not a kid show. Like, it's genocide. It's literal genocide.
Yeah.
There's no like politically correct way to talk about some of these themes, and it would not probably have flown today in today's climate. But it was such a tactful and tasteful way to approach some of these themes about war and loss and destruction and hate, and
yeah,
it was so tactful. And I mean, just mad props to the creators. If I ever got a chance to meet either of the two creators, I would just, I don't know, start bowing down. You know, I'm like, they're literal geniuses. I mean, this idea and these themes that they're creating is insane. Can we also talk about how Gyatso literally took down a whole room of firebenders? And you know how, so here's how I think he did it. And he obviously died, in that room too. All those helmets around him. He sucked the oxygen out of the room.
I could see that.
And it's been done in Korra. That technique has been done before.
Oh, really?
Oh, that's why I'm telling you need to watch Korra. I'm not gonna tell you when or where, but the act of pulling the oxygen out of somebody's lungs has been done in the show.
That's sick.
And it is awesome. And like, so Gyatso pulled the oxygen out of the room and made it vanish, and he basically sacrificial play and killed everyone in that room. What a goat.
If they would have hit him,
he's not burned.
Yeah,
Yep.
he's not burned, it looks like, but
Yeah.
That definitely, and it speaks again to, like you were saying, the writers, how they can make it kind of multi-level like this, where, you know, a kid might not get all of the sentiment of everything, but they're going to be like, dang, that guy's dead. That's really sad, you know? But later on, even like rewatching, it's like there's a lot of stuff that you miss, but also the feelings are the same as an adult or a kid. It's just more deep in a way.
It's crazy. And like that episode really hit home. This is not just going to be a cheesy kid show, not about penguin sledding and whatnot, because I wasn't sold on the first 2 episodes when I first watched it.
Huh.
When that 3rd episode came out, I was like, oh my God. It is, wow. Anyway, I could talk about that forever. Let's move on to our number 5 picks. We're each going to talk about our favorite moments in Sozin's comment 1 through 4, and we'll start with Tyler's.
Yeah, a little ditty called into the Inferno with Sozin's comment. Man, this one was a really cool episode because we got to see the group of Iros kind of come together, and it's like
White
a
Lotus
super group.
So cool.
Yeah, they're just so cool, and I think it's also really cool that a little nod in a way, like, he has been looking for that White Lotus tile a couple times in the series, and it's almost like foreshadowing or something, or in a way to my head. I believe he had been looking for it before, but it's just
the waterbending scroll is the whole reason they went there.
It's definitely a cool episode with we get to see Iroh doing some wild firebending, blowing down the wall of Ba Sing Se.
Wow.
Gosh, that's the past 4 episodes, like the last 4 episodes. I can't remember if I'm correct on this, but I think they made it into like a TV movie kind of thing.
Yeah, they did it 4 episodes in a row. They did it back to back to back.
Yeah, that was like a feeling and a half when you saw those on, like, all 4 lined up on the TV guide. You're like, oh, I'm going to get popcorn. You know?
Dude, when I remember coming home, it was from a middle school band concert, and I was like, I got to get home in time to watch this 4-part finale. And I got home, and my mom invited friends over, and they're like, come and visit with your cousins, come and visit with your aunt and uncle that aren't really your aunt and uncle, you know what I mean? Come and visit with them. And I'm like, I can't. Literally, I can't. I can't. I just remember being shut up in my room, my mom being mad at me for 2 hours watching this. Man. And Into the Inferno also has the moment where Ozai's pushing Aang to the absolute limit. You know?
Yeah.
They're fighting for the first time, and Ozai is just really on the attack. Aang's on the defensive. You get to see him, though, like, fending off Ozai. That's all he was doing for that first half. It was fending off.
Yeah.
Because Ozai was a menace.
It speaks on Ozai's half that he's able to keep up with Aang with just firebending as well on that side. But
can we talk about Mark Hamill pulling the
right?
He's like, they didn't deserve to live in the world. My world. It's time for you to join them. Time to die. That was some Joker stuff, dude. That was some Joker stuff. He pulled the Joker. Like he started right. He pulled his Joker voice for a little bit of that because that die was in there. You know.
Yeah.
I can't do a Mark Hamill impersonation, but it was awesome. What a cool episode. And directly following that episode was my episode, Avatar Aang. When he pops into the Avatar state, grabs him by the beard, and then flips his hand, and the fire just goes up, and then does this wall blast of air that literally knocks him back. The attacker is now on defense, and he shoots a blast of air that is so powerful it eroded a pillar of rock. Now think about this, Tyler. Think about how much air pressure was that. because
A lot.
a little bit of wind ain't gonna erode a pillar of rock. I mean, that pillar of rock was big enough for them to stand on and him to take his bending away at the end, which was
At least
sick, by the way.
1,000 years of rock, 1,000 years of air.
I want to say it was like a category million hurricane. Like, you know, like you would not survive being full frontal blasted at that. If it's enough to blast away that pillar and erode it away, like hundreds of years, thousands of years of erosion in a matter of seconds. And then he does the little, and he shoots the minigun of like rock, you know,
Yeah.
he compresses the rock down to this and he fires it like a minigun. That was sick. Okay.
That's for sure like a huge Toph. Like,
oh my God.
Something that brutal. You know what I mean? Like,
Toph 110% would have a minigun of rock, you know, like 110%. And then he slams the pillars together and he traps, like Ozai shoots these 3 flames out in different directions and Aang makes them eviscerate into nothing. He shoots air and water into it and they just evaporate. Those powerful fire blasts. They're ridiculous. This dude is a force of nature. And I was like, okay, I've waited years of my life, Michael and Brian.
for that.
I've waited years of my life. Deliver. And I was jumping up and down on my bed at home. Like as a middle schooler, I was beside myself. And my mom and dad were so mad at me that I didn't visit my family. And I said, I don't even care. Like who are you compared to this guy who can literally shape the world? Right?
Yeah. I mean, I was just thinking here. I don't know that I watched the finale like when it came out. I think I might have watched it like a year later or a few months later or something.
I remember being so hyped for it. I remember clearing off one of my dad's TV shows off the DVR so I could record mine. And he got so mad over it, but it was worth it. It was worth it. I'm telling you right now, man.
Oh man.
I watched it again immediately on the DVR after that. It was incredible. I mean, like as a kid watching this as much as I did.
Yeah.
It was worth the punishment of not being able to watch TV for a while because I was so obsessed with the TV. My parents thought I needed a break from it. You know, it was worth the punishment.
Yeah. I mean, it was just a great series.
It was so good. And what a way to end it. Sozin's comment, all 4 parts was incredible.
I'm just, I think it's funny though, how much we talk about Avatar and how much it definitely made an impact on both of us for sure.
Oh yeah. Easy.
I don't think I was really as much into anime at that time. I was into a little bit, I think a little bit of Naruto or something, but this right here was like the first kind of thing where I really kept up with like an animated show, or I tried to at least. It wasn't one of those things either where, oh, well, I already seen this episode, I'm just not going to watch it. It's like, no, it's good. Let's see it through. Let's send it through. You know, it was definitely one of those after school shows, and you come home and you see an Avatar marathon on for like 5 hours, and you're like, yes, yes.
I would really hate this growing up. Remember the Nickelodeon's Worldwide Day of Play, and they wouldn't have anything on?
That was so dumb.
I'm like, just put on Avatar. For those who don't want to go outside, gosh.
Oh man, make me touch grass.
Honestly,
What
how
is
dare
this?
they? How dare they? But at the same time, I'm thankful that they programmed the show and they gave it a chance because my God, it was the most different thing in the world, you know.
Yeah.
And if you think about it too, Avatar was one of the first TV shows of the time to have like a season-based thing that was kids television. They didn't really, because SpongeBob was kind of not really a storyline, you know. It wasn't. There wasn't really storyline. Like Avatar walked so other things can run. Now we have a bunch of TV shows now, like adult and kid and teenage, all this stuff, where we have a scope and sequence, right? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It didn't used to be like that because people, Nickelodeon especially, they wanted like one-off episodes. That's why we mentioned before we started talking the Great Divide. They had to have that one that they could just repeat. You know what I mean? That fillery episode that.
Yeah.
I enjoyed the Great Divide. I don't have a problem with it. I know some people do, but they had to have that one episode that could be on repeat. That's why we saw it all the time.
Yeah. That's why. I was like, why do I know that episode so freaking well?
It's because it was always
Out of
on.
all episodes. It's like the one that put through.
They couldn't just put on a random one in the middle because they didn't have any context, you know? So
yeah.
But I really enjoyed this conversation, and we're gonna come back and talk about Korra in the future. I'm gonna get Tyler to finish it because
I will finish it.
It's definitely good. He's seen one season, but he needs to see the others, and we'll do like a top 10 episodes of Korra. We can count down the 4 seasons of that and have a good time with that.
Yeah, I'll probably just restart.
Man, I just wanted to say how much fun this was because it's one of my favorite TV shows of all time, and I enjoyed it. Hope you guys listening enjoyed it as well. Let us know your favorite episode of Avatar. You can only pick one. Only pick one.
You can't be the Avatar and have a bunch of episodes like us.
Right. Tyler's the Avatar, and he told me it was okay. So, all right, guys. Thanks so much for listening. This has been Sunyshore Station. We'll see you next time. Thanks for tuning in. This has been Sunyshore Station.